What's up, Aaron? Happy
How you
Victory
doing?
Friday.
Sure is. All morning long, sir, which is nice. It's nice this time of year. It's cold. It's hard to get up and bring the kids to school, but it is not hard when you get to throw on your Bills gear and strut around like the Vince McMahon meme where he walks out all cocky. That's how I was walking my kid to school today in my Bills gear.
Yeah, it's. I live in Jets and Giants country,
Right.
but
Down
yeah.
in southern New York? No, you're not.
No. Well, it's technically New Jersey. It is New
Sure.
Jersey. I don't know why it's technically New Jersey.
You're actually you pay taxes in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the security guard at my kid's school, he knows I'm a Bills fan, and like every single morning, like when I drop off and pick up, he always wants to talk football, and
Yeah.
yeah, he was congratulating us on a great win last night. I said to him, like, that was probably kind of a boring game if you weren't a fan of the Bills. And it was a pretty dreadful game if you're a Patriots fan. If you're a fan of any other team, it's like
I do think there is probably, especially if it's like Jets and Giants country, I think we kind of all equally hate on the Patriots the same. Like Boston sports is pretty universally hated by the Northeast. It's like the one thing that brings the rest of us together here in the Northeast is our hatred for Boston sports. So I do think there's probably a section of people that, even though the game itself was pretty boring, especially in the second half of the game, I think a lot of people probably enjoyed watching a demoralizing loss for the Patriots and the body language, like we talked about in the post-game show, and Bill Belichick essentially giving up. I think there's a lot of memes and kind of when you're as good as the Patriots were for as long as they were, you make a lot of enemies and a lot of people start to cheer for your failure, right?
Yeah, for sure. And Bo is in here saying he was getting ready to listen to the post game show. So yeah, make sure you check that out after this because it was a good one for sure.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, man. Those ones are tough, dude. I'm so tired this morning, like because you can't just. It's like I used to work at a restaurant and you get out of work real late, but it's not like you just go home and go to sleep, right? Like I went upstairs and just laid in my bed and listened to the press conferences, trying to wind down from doing the show makes it a long night on these primetime nights, dude.
Yeah, I hear you. I generally stay up probably later than I should, so it was fine for the schedule didn't put me off, but this week I think that we talked about it yesterday here. The week has kind of been it's thrown me for a loop.
It's very weird, yeah.
Like I have this huge work project that's due. Like I have a deadline like later today, and like there's
don't do it.
A very small chance that I actually hit it, which is unfortunate. But it'll happen. It'll happen. It just it's just the timing's gonna be a little bit off.
And you know what? If you don't hit it, man, everything's gonna be okay. I promise. You'll be all right. You'll hit it. You'll get it. I have good faith in you. If you're anything like me, dude, I do my best work when I'm up against a deadline. My entire life, I've never gotten anything done earlier on time. It's like right at the very last minute. They used to last minute Quinn was my nickname in high school because I was always turning stuff in at the last minute. So what's up, Greg?
I'm still laying in bed.
Oh, damn it, Greg.
I'm 2.5 cups of coffees deep right now.
I'm about to go make some coffee here. That's where I am right now.
Yeah, but you had a travel day yesterday, so
yeah. I was doing stuff all day long, and then same idea. After doing the post show production, I was listening to all the pressers, getting everything ready, and
it's
then
like
laying
2 in
in
the
bed.
morning.
I didn't go to bed until it was after 2.
Yeah, we had my freaking 4-year-old is regressing with this peeing thing, and he had another accident last night at I got to bed around 2, and he had an accident maybe 4:30 in the morning. So,
man,
Yikes.
rough one here. But I tell you, man, the Bills' victory, the memes, the fun, the dunking, the clips of Boston radio, the conversations about Belichick giving up at the end of the game, all of that stuff is my lifeblood. And no matter how much sleep I lost, I am jacked up right now. Patriots, beating the Patriots, dismantling the Patriots, demoralizing the Patriots. I don't think this is ever going to get old, guys. This could go on for 20 years and I'm still going to enjoy it, I think, in the same way.
It's always going to be fantastic. Your highway exit meme was beautiful. It was perfect.
It's a sad reality about the Mafia, dude. Even I think a lot of people probably are going to go back early in the game and delete some stuff that they were freaking out about early in that game because we just ride the emotional roller coasters. For those who haven't seen it, my meme was basically like, it's that highway meme where there's a straight sign going forward and then the car is like emergency pulling off the exit, hits the emergency brake to pull off the exit. And the meme says, this season sucks going straight. The season's over. This team sucks again. And then, we're going to the Super Bowl. And it really is. That is how I feel like the Mafia, about halftime of that game totally changed their opinions, at least on Twitter.
I'm trying to imagine a scenario where it gets less enjoyable to like sort of revel in the Patriots' demise, but like just to, I don't know, just for the sake of that thought experiment, imagine Bill Belichick retires, Von Miller's done playing, and he gets into the Patriots organization and becomes their GM like 10 years down the line. Then does it get a little bit easier to like give him a pass?
Not for me, dude. I lived in the heart of New England. You should see. I should share some of my text messages with fans. Like people, it's too much fun for me, and there's too much scar tissue of all the years of all the shit that they talked and all the kiss the rings and the demoralizing defeats against the Patriots. There's too much emotional traumas done to me I don't think there's, unless like somehow Josh Allen later in life got involved with the team. But we know the only thing he does is own Gillette Stadium, right? Like
that was so funny. Learning that like the Gillette sponsorship was that much more attractive to him because of Gillette
Ultimate
Stadium.
Troll.
Knowing that he was conscious of that and it was a factor in the decision is amazing. He's perfect in every way.
I'm not even sure I totally believe him, but I love the troll level of it now. He's gonna take that Gillette thing either way, right? Like that was a good endorsement deal to be the quarterback of the Gillette face either way, but it makes it extra sweet that he can use that as a rub.
So many other things, my normal response is now, I want that to be true, so I choose for it to be my reality.
Either way, I'm going to share that video again just to egg on Patriots fans a little bit and just rub it in the wounds a little bit. But you know what? I will say there are a lot of Patriots content creators and people in the Patriots media that I think are having honest conversations about this team. So I'd want to give them at least some credit because it is hard. We know when your team's losing and the fan base is reeling and your Twitter niche isn't going well, that can be chaotic and people, try to say things as content creators. But I do think a lot of the Patriots content creators are being honest. We saw, what was the guy that went on with Ant this week there? Taylor Kyles was like, I just want to play the Bills without being embarrassed, right? Like, I think they know where things are at. And if they didn't know, I think everybody was brought back to reality a little bit last night.
Yeah, there's definitely some realization. A lot of the guys we talked to, Evan Lazar, Mark, Pat Lane, those guys are certainly, there's some difficult conversations the other way going on. I saw Pat talk about that Mac Jones was up there eating crap at the post-game press conference, but it was stuff that should have been questions to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. It's causing those kind of conversations.
But that's frustrating, but that's normal, right? The QB is going to get the praise when things are going well, which Mac Jones got last year early on, right? Like people were like, hey, things are going really well. We're going to praise on them. And you're going to be the one that sort of takes some of those lumps. Josh has had to do it when at times it's been Dorsey's or Dayball's fault for the questions he's answering. I want to be a fly on the wall in that Patriots locker room at halftime and post game, because I can't imagine, like, there has to be massive divides in this locker room for the New England Patriots. Like, not even just like within the units themselves. I'm sure the defense and offense are mad at each other for the offense's inability to do anything. But I think even probably internally in the offense, it seems like you saw Mac Jones yelling about how bad the run game is and you got to freaking pass the ball. Some of that you chalk up, right, as like in the moment you're getting beat, there's going to be emotions. It's an emotional sport. But it seems like there's like a real philosophical split maybe within the New England Patriots franchise right now, at least on that side of the ball.
Yeah, it's a weird situation there. It seems like things are unraveling. We've been through this during the drought period. There were times, right, when the team just felt like it was not in sync, and it's been a long time with the Patriots organization where they haven't had to deal with this sort of dysfunction. I mean, there were stories about how, towards the end of Brady's tenure, about how he and Belichick weren't getting along, but I mean, it never really seemed to affect the on-field performance that much.
And winning cures everything.
Exactly.
All right, guys, I got to tap out here. I wanted to jump on and say hi. I actually do need to bathe myself and make coffee and things like that.
Picture didn't happen.
All right, guys,
bye.
Go Bills.
Thanks for stopping by, Greg. Oh, man.
If anybody else out here, we got If the Walls Could Talk in Buffalo, guys. They got a show premiering here in a little bit. So
is that? I wonder if
it's
that's
for sure
Josh or
yeah.
Dave Tilton's here.
Lauren's here. Get on in, Lauren. EB. I see a bunch of people. Joe DeRosa. Maybe I can hear Joe today. GC's in the house. Mexico Marty. What up? Josh, is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, a couple of observations just from what you just said about the Patriots. When I was on the coaching staff, there comes a point in the season where if you aren't going anywhere, it becomes kind of survival of the fittest for the players and the coaches. And these guys are always looking out for next year or, what's going to happen. So I would imagine in that locker room and in that front office today, it's almost like a CYA where those guys, probably going to splinter into a couple of different camps, and it gets real kind of cliquey and, a lot of intrigue and drama. And, I saw it at the Bills, and I heard about it throughout the league. Like, everybody kind of goes into their own corners when it's pretty obvious that the Super Bowl dream of that year is over. It could get ugly there.
Not even the Super Bowl dream, too. Like, it's still a business at the end of the day, and it becomes more of a business when you're not having the team success. Like, I feel like teams can get away with a little bit more. To everybody's point, the cliche of winning fixes everything. If you've got guys, say, that have contract incentives to hit, I feel like everybody wants to go out and hit those, but you can live with not hitting those if you're moving on to a deep playoff run or something like that. But when the season's over and you still have those contract incentives out there, then guys start to worry about their own stuff, right? Not the team success. And then that can become a problem that splinters if guys aren't getting the touches required to hit those incentives or whatever it is.
Absolutely. And I also wonder about, it's kind of like Syracuse basketball right now, like the whole nepotism thing with Bill Belichick and his sons on defense. It's great when you're winning and you're the greatest coach of all time, blah, 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 blah. But when that ends, he's got two of his sons basically running his defense. And, everybody's going to be like, well, is this old guy still, does he still have it?
Yeah.
Does he have my best interest in mind? Does he have his family's best interest in mind? Like, I could see, it's kind of like Jim Boeheim at Syracuse right now. It's like, has the game passed him by? Has the game passed Belichick by? And when you hire your family and, get the band back together with Patricia and Judge, it's a bad look if it goes sideways.
And we saw it happen with Rex, right? I feel like Rex's demise was bringing in Rob. Like, not that I think Rex was okay in terms of drought coaches before that point, but as soon as he brought in Rob, like, things just started to spiral out of control.
People turned on him for sure. I mean, there was already rumblings that maybe this isn't going to be what we hoped it would be. But yeah, when he brought in Rob, who was known around the league to just not have it anymore, right? As a DC, that was not a good look.
I would be, if I was a Patriots fan this morning, I wouldn't even be so much concerned about. I mean, the nepotism for sure is always an issue, no matter what your team or what business you're in or whatever. But I would be a little bit more concerned with the fact that you did bring in Matt Patricia, who's a smart guy, has been a good defensive coordinator, to be your offensive coordinator. And this is real stuff here. This is the NFL. This isn't a joke. There's the guys that have worked really hard and deserve these roles. And we gave Saturday a really hard time, and the Indianapolis Colts a really hard time for just kind of scoffing at that whole process and giving a guy that probably didn't deserve the opportunity. And sort of for Matt Patricia, like, he's been in the league and done some things, but I don't know that he deserved an opportunity to just become an pseudo OC for an NFL organization. I feel like that's a slap in the face to a lot of guys that are probably better suited for that job and would have gotten more production. And it's also kind of a slight to, you know, say what you want about Mac Jones. I'm not a big fan. I think he's probably like a Trent Edwards, Pennington type quarterback. But in your second year to have this type of dysfunction in the offense is a huge travesty to a rookie. Like, I don't think he's the guy. I don't think he's going to be the guy, but I don't think you could tell by what they did this year.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's tough to make that drop from head coach to position coach, but it would probably have made more logical sense, right? If you want to bring Matt Patricia into the organization and you want to bring him to the offensive side of the football, which is, you know, new in a sense, right? I mean, obviously it's not completely new to him, but you know, bring him in and let him be a quarterback coach or, you know, O-line coach, whatever makes the most sense based on his experience, and let him work up to OC if that's what you see as his path.
I have a thought that, you know, he keeps bringing in all these guys that he quote unquote trusts, and you wonder if he didn't want to get a young hotshot OC who could either upstage him or become like the obvious heir apparent.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that with McDaniels, right? I'm sure there was some tension there with McDaniels through some of the years.
Yep. And if some young guy like McDaniels comes in and the offense flourishes, and then he's got his family running the defense, you know, it seems like it would be a threat to him, and you wonder as he gets older and you know, a little bit more, I don't know, entrenched or kind of stuck in his ways, you could see him just going like kind of further back into like his shell of the guys he knows and trusts, even if they're not qualified for the positions that they're in.
Well, you got to think that his hope is that his son is going to take over as head coach when he's ready to step away, right?
Yeah. Hey, good luck with that.
Yeah, I know, right? But I mean, like, to your point, like, he doesn't want to, you know, probably doesn't want someone on to threaten that vision. I would think that's probably his dream of what, you know, his succession plan would be.
Yeah, Joe Judge and Matt Patricia are not, you know, gonna light New England on fire, and they're not gonna get Robert Kraft to throw away, you know, the Belichick legacy. And those guys are loyal to him and probably owe, you know, employment to him at this point. So it just feels like a really bad dynamic there, and it feels like it's like one of those empires that's just on its way down.
Yep.
Tilton, you're out here, man. I see you.
This whole conversation is really interesting to me, and I think about Josh McDaniels being there for so long. And I think because of like how, I don't know how much of a factor this is, but Josh McDaniels being so much younger than Belichick and him kind of being there. And like, it's kind of like it was kind of like that whole thing with Duke, right? With Coach K and like Dawkins being there, kind of like being the guy waiting in the wings. And then all of a sudden John Shire comes in and he becomes the head coach, like Dawkins goes elsewhere. McDaniels goes elsewhere, doesn't really have success as a head coach, comes back. So I feel like maybe there's a sense that the Patriots didn't realize how good they had it with McDaniels as an OC, because he was part of the family and he did do a pretty good job with them as an OC. And there wasn't really a huge threat that maybe like he was going to be this uber successful head coach, or it was going to be for a while, because he had already kind of flamed out as a head coach. But then, to Josh's point there, like, if you bring an unknown commodity like a hotshot young OC in, then there's like this variable that you maybe haven't considered, that guy could eventually be like, oh, well, Pats fans like may see this guy as kind of like the next dude in line. And I don't think Belichick, probably, like, it's all about control for him. And I would imagine that like that kind of idea didn't sit well with him. I mean, Steve, my co-host, like talked about this all going into the season. Like, what were the Pats doing? Like, what was their game plan for their offensive side of the ball? Like, it seemed like they had none, and that clearly seems to be playing out now on the field this year.
I got a question here before Anthony's sitting here, and Joe DeRosa just requested, so I want to make sure we get to everybody too. But I did see the article in The Athletic, and I've heard some rumblings that it's been sort of a conversation out the last week. Probably no truth to it. It's probably not going to happen, but since it's spaces and we get to space out a little bit here, saw rumblings of Tom Brady becoming a free agent and going back to Green Bay since there's still some mutual respect there.
Going back to New England, you mean?
Or sorry, going back to New England, mutual respect there. There's a lot of things in place, right? You do have, outside of how Josh Allen and the Bills treat him, you have a good defense. If they've got a lot of money to spend, like there could be some dream scenario for Patriots fans where they could get it back together. Do you think that would fix things or make the dynamic even more weird and put more pressure on them?
I think, I mean, this is just my view. I think like they said it pretty well. Like Tony Gonzalez, I didn't think he's like that great of an analyst, but
he's not yet.
I think he said pretty well. Like a good point he made was like they do have people on that roster that are talented on the offensive side of the ball, and I do think it's a combination probably of Matt Patricia and Mac Jones that are holding that entire offense back because they have good play. Like Hunter Henry, before he came to New England, when he was with the Chargers, was like an elite red zone threat, right? I mean, this guy just scored touchdowns when he was on the field.
Bills Mafia was clamoring for Johnny
Bills
Smith.
Mafia clamoring for him. Jacoby Myers, a really good receiver. Devontae Parker, we know him well. He's been a good receiver in his career. Like Ramondre Stevenson is a very leading the I think he's like third in the NFL for running backs and receptions. So like they have good pieces, and so I think it would be a swallowing of pride type of thing almost. And I don't know, like is Belichick too prideful to even do that? But at the end of the day, he's got to consider like whether winning or pride becomes more important. And it feels like maybe winning would have the edge there. So I guess there could be some smoke to that fire potentially.
So how does I actually missed this rumor. How does Tom Brady become a free agent? Are people saying that the Bucs would release him?
I
think you're muted, Aaron.
When's Tom Brady become a free agent? I thought it was next year.
Oh, you're talking about after the season.
Yeah.
Sorry. Gotcha.
Yeah, no, yeah, it wouldn't be now. There would be no way to gain him now. This would be a free agent move where the rumor is obviously it would be a new offensive coaching staff next year with the cap space that they've got would be the lure. Come back home. He's still very close to Kraft. Come back, ride out to the sunset here. We screwed up. We shouldn't have let you go. Come on back and get the band back together type of thing. We do see it happen in sports. We saw LeBron go back to Cleveland after that got pretty sloppy and go back and win a championship. I don't think it would be – I think it would be a really great PR move for the New England Patriots. And I think that they would sell a lot of tickets and a bunch of new Brady jerseys and stuff, but I don't think it changes the power dynamics in the AFC East.
I mean, even if the Patriots became all of a sudden like a threat again, let's call it like a true like playoff or even Super Bowl threat, like what's the longevity of that going to be? Right. One season? Like it would be for like one last ride, right? And that would be like just a small blip, and that would be even if they were all of a sudden back in the Super Bowl contention, like it would be like what, 1 year at best?
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, this was always kind of the problem of picking Belichick over Brady, is that now, you know, Belichick was going to try to draft a quarterback, and now you're in like QB purgatory. Yeah. So, you know, like if you would have picked Brady rides off into the sunset. Maybe they have a couple more good years, maybe they don't, but then maybe you bottom out and you're able to get, you know, Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or Caleb Williams. Now you're stuck with a coach who wants to win now and a middling quarterback. And you're right, even if you bring Brady back, that buys you like 1 year, 2 years, but you're stuck in QB purgatory now for 5 years because you're not bad enough to get a top 5 pick.
This was the Bills' problem.
I was going to say, Don knows mediocrity is probably the worst hole to be in the NFL, right? Like when you're just hanging out mediocre, you're not good enough to get the assets.
Anytime I say 6 and 10, he just shakes his head, and he's like, "That's hell. That's the worst.
It's the worst place to be."
It's one thing if you were like the Saints through all those years with Drew Brees, and like you had a couple 6 and 10 seasons where you weren't good, but you knew you still had Drew Brees. Like you were going to come back the next year and contend. That's not like the situation here. Like if you're middling in mediocrity without that quarterback,
and you don't have
it's just not going to work.
Sure. Rodgers had a couple down years too, but you knew you had the guy. Here, real quick, Anthony Cole, huge supporter of all the Cover One's work here. I wanted to get him in here. He's been waiting patiently. What's happening, Anthony?
Morning, y'all. Happy Victory Friday.
Hell yeah.
Had a comment and then a thought-provoking question maybe, but the comment first is, I don't know about anybody else, but I had 2 specific plays last night by the Patriots that gave me like vivid flashbacks of the Bills drought. The doink field goal felt so Bills, like 2010. And then I think it was like a 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 13 with like halfway through the 4th quarter, and they do like 4 out routes or 4 vertical routes, and then the curl route towards the sideline, and Mac Jones passes it to the sideline for like a 3-yard gain. I was just like, boy, does that remind me of Drought Bills. But my question would be I don't think the offensive line played terribly outside of, I think Quessenberry or Quessenberry, I'm not exactly sure how to say his name. He was pretty terrible. But do you think with Ike kind of working his way back, do you think there's any run there to try to get him some playing time? Do you think they play with that on the interior to try to improve some of that? Because I think if there's something that's going to hold them back on offense, it's going to be that offensive line not holding up against, Miami or the Chiefs or Cincinnati's. Those defensive lines,
Micah Parsons maybe in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I mean, played pretty well against KC's this several weeks ago, but boy, I'm just not sure that interior line outside of Morse just has not looked very good either.
Yeah, I got a couple of points. One, the Patriots looked super droughty last night, punting on a 4th and 6 when you needed to get points. Like it just felt like a Doug Marrone led bad quarterback inspired team. And the real droughty about it is like you have a good defense. Like Tilt said, you have good players on this roster, and was always really the frustration for the Bills' mediocrity, right? Like you had good players, and if you just had that one piece, that quarterback, you could just. It was all the difference in winning some of those games. In terms of offensive line, one, I want to give Quessenberry a little bit of flowers after that game. I know he played poorly. He'll get a terrible PFF grade. There's a lot of bad looking highlights for him, but he's a backup lineman in the NFL. So the expectations are pretty low.
He was hurt too,
and he was hurt, and he gutted it out, and he came back in multiple times. And Kirk Herbstreit really talked about that late in the 3rd quarter, 4th quarter, about how we should really be giving our hats off to this guy of gutting out that performance, because it kept Bobby Hart off the field. It also allowed them to bring Bobby Hart on the field for some of the extra lineman set that they were doing. And the offensive line, I thought, had a actually pretty decent day, especially in the run game. Dorsey got pretty creative with some of the motions, eye candy.
I'm loving the Hines motion.
What that does is it forces that Patriots defense to stay spread out, to stay honest. And so it allowed the Bills to really get an advantage in the middle of the field and not allow the Patriots to just get everybody in the box there. So some of that stuff, creativity, can help the offensive line. But in terms of Bakker, I think that's going to be more insurance this year. He's still coming off that Achilles, even though he's coming back. I think that Achilles could still take a while to be full strength. And I actually think the interior has been playing a little bit better over the last couple of weeks. So I'm willing to let that ride out and see how that plays. Hopefully Dawkins comes back here real quick and we don't have to worry about Quessenberry too much. But I don't want people – I think it's unfair the type of dunking that's going on towards Quessenberry today. He gutted out a performance. We know he's not a great lineman. There's not a lot of great backup linemen throughout the league. So that's only my points on those.
I totally agree. Just one thing, the players watching that film will love him. Like that, the respect that he will get in that locker room for clearly being hurt and, putting his body on the line. He probably could have shut it down, and he's not getting dunked on, like you said, on national TV last night. But the players and the coaches and the staff, like he's going to get so much praise and love for that today, because that was a gutty effort.
Yeah.
And I think that, that play that Uche made to get around him with that he looked like Von Miller, honestly, on that strip sack play. And that's the one I think that sticks out in people's minds when they're, saying how bad Quessenberry wasn't. I don't know. I think it's a little bit unfair. Like it's just, you got to tip your hat to Uche on that one. That was just a really good play.
Uche is an up and coming edge rusher. Like I think he can be an elite edge rusher if he puts the full package together. And that was a hell of a move. You're right. Like I don't think Josh
even felt him coming. Like he was on top of him. Like normally Josh, he can feel the pressure and do, put an arm behind him to kind of slow that down and give him an extra half second to get the ball out.
You saw it later on. I think it was like a 3rd and 4. They got pressure. They're right there on Josh's blind side, and he felt the pressure that time. He just got the ball out quick. You could just see him sense the pressure and get the ball out. So you're right. I do think he normally sensed it. But yeah, he had no idea that was coming.
Do you think the Pats D-line is on par with like the Chiefs and the Dolphins, or you think we're going to see better if we see the Chiefs in the playoffs? But like the Dolphins D-line has been playing out of their mind right now too. You think they're on par with them, or do you think we're gonna?
The Patriots line is also kind of banged up, so I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's a totally fair comparison if you're talking about the Dolphins line at being healthier, but I don't know. What do you think, Aaron?
Are the Dolphins really balling out right now on defense?
I think he's talking about O-line, right?
D-line.
Anthony?
D-line.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, Dolphins D-line is playing. I mean, Chubb and then the other two. What, Ingram? Is it Ingram? Agba. I mean, they've been playing pretty well the last 4 or 5 weeks from what I've read on.
Sure.
On Twitter.
Yeah, I haven't looked.
I don't really watch the film, but
I have not watched film on Miami in the last few weeks here yet.
The Jets D-line, I'd be a little worried about, honestly. I mean, they gave us some trouble in the first matchup, and I mean, it's not like I don't know. Does it look like Dawkins might be able to come back after this mini bye, or?
I'm not sure on the status for Dawkins. I'd hope so, obviously, with that Jets defensive line. But again, like we saw the strip sack, and that's going to stick in our heads here. But as long as Josh is there, like he makes average linemen look so much better with what he's able to do. And I know we don't want to see him running around and doing that type of stuff, but it does erase a lot of the problems that you have in the offensive line. He took a lot of shots last night, so you don't want to see him taking as many hits like that. And that's really where I want to see the offensive line do better. It's not so much. I think guys are going to get pressure. It's the NFL. People are going to get pressure on Josh. Josh is going to hold the ball long too and move around, which is hard to block for. So I think there's going to still be a lot of pressures. It's still going to be a problem, but the Bills also present that problem to other teams sort of equally. I think it was more of a problem in years past when teams would get pressure on the Bills and we couldn't also return the favor on defense, getting pressure all night in that game last night. I felt no matter how the Bills were playing offensively, like the other team was not going to move the ball down and score. And this defense doesn't still to this day get the credit. Leslie Frazier does not get the credit he deserves. This defense doesn't get the credit they deserve. But I want to make sure Joe DeRosa here has been waiting patiently. He left.
Just real
he
quick.
Came back. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just before we get Joe in, I just wanted to point out GC made a great point that you can argue Quessenberry is the third string tackle. Don't forget we lost Tommy Doyle. I mean in the injury rash that we've been going through. I mean Tommy Doyle was definitely that sixth guy at the end of last year and at the beginning of this year. So having to bring in guys Quessenberry and Bobby Hart getting more playing time, that's all carry on effect from Doyle going down. So
yep.
Yep, you want to bring Joe in? Let's see what he has to say.
What's happening, man? Thank you for waiting, bro.
No, all good. I'm sorry I left and requested like 100 times. I wasn't being passive aggressive. I thought I had a work meeting, And then, like, I was coming out of the subway, so I tried requesting, and it kept saying it was failing. So I was like, shit, I don't want Aaron thinking, like,
no, I only saw the one.
I didn't see him at all, to be honest. So, yeah, I guess it was failing.
Okay, cool. Good. So first off, woke up, cold breeze, stomach wasn't feeling great. Walked outside, but still felt like a winner. That was a great win last night. Felt good to watch us beat the Pats. Wanted to chime in on the O-line talk because, the discourse on this app last night when Quessenberry was playing was really bad. Quessenberry dealing with an ankle injury. I mean, like, when you're playing left tackle and you need your feet, especially if you need to plant to try and keep someone in front of you, to try and push forward, you're not going to be able to do that. And he was quite literally a human traffic cone at a point at the end of the game. Like, you watched how he was just throwing himself in front of whatever defender was in front of him. He didn't need form. He didn't try to do any fundamental anything. He was just, shit, man, like, my ankle hurts. I'm just going to, if I'm playing, I'm going to throw myself at you and just, at least get you off bay for enough time to let the run go or to let the pass come out. So I give him all the credit in the world. Of course, in my game brain, when I'm watching the game and I'm super stressed out, I'm definitely like, oh, come on, man, you gotta make that block. But also, looking at it in hindsight in a much calmer space and context, he did the best he could, and I was impressed. And I think with the mini bye coming up, that's going to give you your chance for him to get right, but also Dawkins to get right, who had a sprain, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so it's definitely helpful. I'd like to have him back by the Jets game, but I will say this. I want to give a lot of credit to Dorsey. Even though I did disagree with kind of how he handled the end of the first half, I didn't like that they kept throwing the ball. The run looked fantastic. James Cook looked like a true running back one. I loved how they were using him, not only as a back in the eye, but also just a check down guy. Allen in the play action, watching down the field, trying to get something deep, can't get it. Cook is right there. That safety valve is so important, and we've been missing that for so long. I think McKenzie's game butted a little bit yesterday because we had that going as well. It kind of looked reminiscent of last year. And just, man, I'm really, really stoked to see what they do with this running game for the rest of the year, because it was super cool to me to watch. Just, watch a first down run go for 7 yards, to watch a 3rd and 1 go for 3 yards. That was just refreshing. I think this line is more capable than people think of pulling that off. I think it was really just how they're blocking.
And we got to remember, too, like, Dorsey is in his first year play calling. Cromer just got back to this team. Like, some of this stuff is going to take time. Like, if anyone's played sports, like, some of this is going to take time to gel together, to coach it up, to get the mistakes on film so that you can have the coachable moments. I do think we're seeing some of it come together. Last year, this time, the Bills were just coming off that loss to New England in that win game, and then they didn't really start picking up till the second half of that Bucs game the next week. They were still sort of going through the processes of trying to figure out the offense. The offense was, as much as we praise Brian Daboll and he's had success as a head coach, people were clamoring for him to be fired this time last year because the offense had stalled out so many times in different games. And so it's true, though. And
it's true. It's so true.
Dude, game, I mean, oh my God. Even I was just like, Daboll, what are you doing? It's a long season. There's so much time. There's so many games, and teams game plan differently for everybody. You match up differently to everybody. Like, it's hard to be an OC and have 17 perfect games. It doesn't.
For sure.
Even the best, like, watching last night too, it reminded me of like when Brady used to beat the Bills, because it wasn't exciting. It was just boring football, but it was methodical, and it was so, like, well timed. Everything was executed right.
So hard to watch as a Bills fan. Oh my God.
Yeah, for years. But to your point, Joe, I do think, McKenzie, Budding, some of that stuff, I think it all comes back to the offense felt patient. It didn't feel rushed. Josh felt patient. He felt in control. And I think it does come back to having success in the run game. When the Bills started to get better last year, I don't know if it's chicken or the egg. Was the offensive line actually playing all that much better? Or was the concepts, where the calls for the run game, or how they were executing the run game getting better? But once we saw the balance return to that offense, it was limitless, right? They could go down and score every single drive. They were staying ahead of the change. And you heard Josh talk about that. Like, there was a bunch of times where they weren't even hitting third downs on some of these longer drives last night. And that was because I think the balance that they put in with this offense, and it does allow Josh to play a little more patient, wait for Isaiah McKenzie to get open, take those checkdowns, It puts a lot less pressure on Josh Allen to be the entire offense for this team and allows him to play within the offense.
Yeah.
His stat line last night was not super impressive. I mean, but he played a great game, and yeah, it's great to see us win a game without him needing to be this, complete hero, right?
And he still did have some of them. Like, you still get those plays. That touchdown to Davis was still Josh Allen doing Josh Allen. One. That play. He and Mahomes are the only guys that can do those things, right? Like,
I was losing my mind. My wife was like, "Whoa, calm down!" Like, no, did you see that? Did you see what he just did?
I thought for sure he was out of bounds. Like, I was like, that play is coming back because there was a flag. There was like all this stuff. I'm like, that play is for sure not standing. And then I was like, dude, the athleticism on display. We're so spoiled by what he does. The athleticism to throw off NFL defenders along the sideline, stay composed, get your hips right, and deliver a fastball across your body when you can't even see the receiver. Like, dude, this is stupid. It's so stupid.
What was their corner doing on that play? Because I watched the replay multiple times. I
didn't think he could do that, basically.
Yeah.
I think he lost Gabe Davis.
You won't throw that ball. You're not.
Right. You're going out of bounds. You're going to throw it out the back of the end zone.
Well, and
if he moved like a couple inches left, like, Allen's not throwing that ball. He literally just stood in place like, nah, he's done. He's going out of bounds.
Yeah.
And he just darts it.
You don't expect that ball. And honestly, Gabe Davis is literally behind two of those guys when the ball is getting cocked. When you see Josh Allen making the decision to throw, Gabe Davis is not open, right? He makes a play to get to the ball. And good on him to get there and make the catch, but just unbelievable effort. But the problem is we've seen it. Like, this isn't the first time Josh has done that. And so I don't want it to become one of these things where we just take it for granted, because it's an unbelievable display of athleticism, what he does.
The Allen experience, to me, it's so funny because I've always told my friends, like, Josh Allen, watching him play is like riding a wooden roller coaster at, like, Hershey Park.
You've made that analogy here before. It's a great one.
Dude, like, you feel like even after those best plays, you're, like, exhausted because it's almost like watching Ichiro play baseball or watching him hit at the plate, because, like, Vlad Guerrero, Ichiro, those guys had the worst batting mechanics you ever saw from a hitter in the league, but they were so good at what they did, you didn't care. And that's honestly, like, watching Allen throw a crossbody to a double-covered receiver in the end, and it works. You're just like, dude, I don't care about your completion percentage. I don't care about the touchdown-interception ratio. If you're making that stuff happen and you're winning games, that's all that matters to me.
Dude, to Josh's point earlier about talking about Quessenberry on the film when the team gets in and does the film and them giving him kudos, could you imagine some of the film sessions where Josh Allen, the plays that he's making, like, think about how we gush about this in the plays he makes. The guys that are NFL pros and know how hard the game truly is, those film room sessions where he's doing just silly shit just has to be so unbelievable. Fun. And think about, even on the other side, think about the Patriots having to watch that back in film session. That can't be fun at all.
I could tell you guys that it's funny when obviously when a guy on your team makes a great play, the film room will erupt. But when it's the other way, like in the Patriots TV room that night, this morning, it's complete silence. It's silence. Like, and the guys know it's coming, and it's silence. And for me, I would have to, grade each player on each play from what the coach was saying, and I would have to rewind it, like Herb Brooks in Miracle, when it's again, and you're going to play that play probably 12 or 13 times in front of the entire DB room. It's 5 minutes of just, awkwardness. It's awful.
It's all pain.
That reminds me, like, I could only imagine in the Pats room. Like, do you remember being in, like, high school or middle school and just, like, your teacher before the class and tells everyone that, like, you guys did terrible on this recent exam, and they point out to, like, certain answers that were on the test? They don't say names, but you knew it was your answer, and you feel that shame and disappointment. Like, those DBs are going to be feeling that in the film session. Like, it's not even going to be yelling. It's just going to be Bill just showing the play, and then everyone just in pure silence.
Yeah. Silence is worse than anything else in the film room, as everybody knows. It's right there. It's on a 7-foot wall.
Yeah.
Someone made the point in the post-game show chat last night that when Belichick gave up ate those timeouts at the end of the game, that it was indicative of him sending a message to the team, like, well, if you're going to give up on plays if you're going to stop covering receivers, if on offense, if you're going to stop running your routes or stop, trying to play back to the ball when your quarterback's out of pocket, then I'm just going to give up too, because that's where we're at right now. And I don't know if he's trying to send a message or not, but I thought that was an interesting way to look at it. And I wonder what that practice is going to be like for them this week.
Not fun.
Yeah, not at all.
So looking ahead here a little, or do we want to just stay on the victor, or do we want to look ahead? What do you want? Should we talk about OBJ? He's here today, right? He's coming into town.
We should probably talk about OBJ.
OBJ Day?
And before...
weeks. We've been doing this for months now, Chris, and it's been OBJ every single Spaces we've done, and now he's finally here.
And Danielle popped in to request a chat on the OBJ.
Yeah. OBJ!
But before we go too far, I think let's give Josh a chance to plug their show at noon, because they're going to be talking about the free agent visit and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So Don and I, for people that don't know, Don was the director of football admin for 13 years, from 2005 through 2017. He was real instrumental when we signed Mario Williams and a bunch of other guys. We're going to talk about that at noon on YouTube. We're going to go live, and we're going to walk through what a big free agent visit looks like. Who makes the arrangements, who will be at the airport. I think Don, not that he has any inside information, in real time, but he'll be able to give everybody kind of a really detailed, interesting look at that. We also have Marlon Kerner coming on, who worked for the Bills after his career, and he's got kind of an interesting angle on this as well. He had a torn ACL. He came back from that ACL injury within 9 months, kind of like, the whole Trey White and OBJ thing. He came back too early. He tore his ACL again, and it ended his career. So we thought he had a pretty unique perspective on, OBJ and Trey White. And obviously we'll talk about the game last night, and we have some giveaways as well. So I think it'll be a good, fun show for us and being live. And I really think that Don's got, some pretty cool information on stuff in real time today.
So is that live from Tempo? Or
Duff's?
Yeah, I'm going to Duff's.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to go.
I'll be over there.
Happy to go to Duff's.
Yeah, I'll be over there. One on Sheridan. I'll be over there in 10 minutes.
Yeah. I'm going down to his house to record now, and Duff's at noon on a Victory Friday. Sounds like not a bad idea.
Yeah, right.
Before we get too far into the OBJ thing, I don't know. I don't want to leave the Patriots game conversation without just giving one more round of props for James Cook, because I like Cook, and it's been really fun watching his growth in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
He was great last night. I mean, he had more yards from scrimmage than any other Bills player last night. I know we don't use yards as the be all end all metric, but he was a huge part of the offense. He was catching some, pretty hot passes from Josh on those 5-yard hook routes, right? It's not easy, to do that sort of thing. And I mean, I know there's still some development there. The turf monster popping up, and Eric pointed out after the Lions game that one Josh interception where that similar sort of route, right, with a 5-yard hook where Josh saw the passing window, but Cook took a half step to the right.
Yeah.
Instead of to the left, where if he had gone to the left into the passing window, it would have been a catch. Instead, he goes to the right, and the defender is now in the passing window to make the interception. That sort of thing will get worked out with more experience. But man, the way that he runs, I know we talked about this offline last night, but he's just got this way. You think of his speed as and I think the tendency is to think of him as an outside runner, but he has some moves in between the tackles, and it's so sudden, so subtle. The way that he just kind of finds creases, and it looks like there's no space there, and then all of a sudden he's got 8 yards, and it's really cool to see. I'm just ecstatic to see what happens as we move forward.
Yeah, he was a guy. I was live at the draft with Eric and Greg. Did not like the pick. I understood the idea of speed and stuff, but when I was watching him in Georgia, one, it's hard to get a real grasp of anything with the Georgia team because there's so much talent on those teams. It's hard to understand if it's the talent level or whatnot. But you saw a lot of the CJ Spiller fast running back where you wanted to use your speed and get outside, right? And in college, that works. You can, if you're an elite athlete, if you're the top of the top, you could usually outrun guys and do that stuff. It doesn't so much work at the next level. And I didn't see a lot of vision in the running in college. And I don't believe vision is something that you necessarily can teach, but he's proven some of this wrong. I think he has more patience than I anticipated, a little bit more vision, and his ability to have a little patience in the backfield. And then, like you said, find that crease and just accelerate is an elite trait that he has. That acceleration is something Devin Singletary will never be able to get, right? Like we've seen him try to get faster, try to get more acceleration. He just doesn't have that. He's slippery, but he doesn't have that burst to be able to plant his foot. And like you said, get upfield and squeak through 8 yards before you know it. So is fun to watch. I want to see the continued development. I'm still also high on Singletary. I don't want to get lost in this either. Like I think Singletary is still a very good running back, super underrated. He's got that low center of gravity. Would like to see him bring in some of the catches. He had a couple drops last night. Would like to see him keep working on that.
Yeah, and of course we're going to get people still saying they want to see Hines more involved, and I know
he was super involved last night, wasn't
he? Yeah, he was. He didn't, the carries he got. I think it was a little unfair to sort of evaluate his stat line because he had those. He kind of it felt like he got left out to dry on those carries down in the red zone where he's going out to the left and there's just defenders right there and he gets tackled for a loss. So
some of those plays are tough. I think fans look at those plays and just get mad. Sometimes it's Josh should have probably kept it on one of those options. He had it up the middle, but that's such a split-second decision. You want Josh to make the right call every single time. It's not always going to happen. There was another one that was the right read. It just wasn't blocked well, and the cornerback made a good play and came up and made a good tackle. So sometimes you also have to give credit where credit's due. But the Hines, it's sort of like the Tremaine Edmonds argument. Like his impact on the game last night wasn't so much ball in his hands, eye candy, having to account for him spreading the offense, allowing Dorsey to work the middle of the field with the run game. Like that's again, to Josh's point, that'll be something that the team respects Hines being on the field and being part of the offense without even getting the ball.
We've talked about it here. I mean, that package with Hines and Cook together on the field, there is something brewing there. Yeah. They really want that to be something, and it is already. I mean, Cook has made some explosive runs out of that package. We're going to start seeing some interesting stuff from that.
I think Cook's presence too, because I was saying to other people, the good thing about him is like even on a blown up play, he's still inching forward for a couple yards. I think when you got Cook and Hines in the same backfield, that's just going to wear defenses down too, because like Aaron said, you have to get, when you have Hines in motion, someone on him to respect that fact. And then Josh has the choice to either give it to Cook and let him take the middle or give it to Hines on a pass. When you have that threat constantly, it's going to wear defenses down, especially if it's working. And then that opens up the lane for Singletary too, because Singletary isn't a burner, but Singletary's strong and can break tackles. If you got a defense that's worn out, that's going to just open up the lane for another facet of your running game.
And don't forget that both Hines and Cook have the ability to make those huge plays on wheel routes down the sideline. They can make those catches. So having them out there together, I mean, it just adds all of these different things that you have to defend against. And like to your point about Singletary, I mean, we've started to see some more duo runs with him, and things are starting to open up more in the middle. Certainly helps out the O-line. We've been talking about it now for a couple of weeks. The development of the run game over the course of the last few weeks has just been really exciting.
Agreed.
All right, we got to get Danielle in. She's requested here. Let's get her in. Let's talk some OBJ. I mentioned talk some OBJ. Danielle, you in there?
Yeah, sorry Danielle for delaying the OBJ talk. I just had to give James Cook some more props because it was just fun to watch last night. I see she's connecting, but I mean, so OBJ. I know Josh and Don are going to go through the timeline and kind of give updates on their show about what this sort of a visit looks like. I would imagine. Do we know like what time he lands and stuff, or?
I don't think we're gonna know. I know that OBJ was talking about. OBJ might be Twitch streaming right now, competing against us, telling people.
You mean
I know
Vaughn?
He was telling people, Vaughn, Twitch streaming, but I don't think we'll know. And
I'm gonna have to watch for Vaughn Twitch streams this weekend because you might see OBJ on one of them.
You could, for sure. It's going to be an interesting. I'm going to listen to Don and Josh here this afternoon. It's going to be interesting too, though, because the Bills just went through, and this I don't think is being talked about enough. This stretch of the 3 games with the snow and having to go on 2 road games and back-to-back Thursday games, like with all the injuries they've dealt with. I really also think all of that context, Sean McDermott ought to be in the running for Coach of the Year with all that exterior things he's had to deal with.
McDaniel, dude.
It is going to be Mike McDaniel.
In 12 days, man. That's brutal.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong that he deserves it, but it always goes to that new flashy guy that is making waves.
But I think there's an argument in terms of if you're going to have a nuanced conversation about like what did coaches have to deal with and what do they have to overcome. Sean McDermott and this Bills staff has overcome a ton, and I don't think it's the storyline as much as some of the media members should be probably hitting on that a little bit more about how much they've truly had to deal with in the NFL season. But they're coming up on a mini bye, and a lot of players are probably going to want to get out of town. A lot of players are probably going to want to get that rest. So I'm interested to see how many. I know Josh will be here, right? He's got his nice mansion. He's going to be fine. But I'm interested to see how many players are going to be here for the OBJ recruitment pitch here today.
I think the key ones.
Oh. No, go ahead, Danielle. Go ahead.
I think the key ones absolutely are going to be here for it. I think Vaughn, Diggs, Josh. I think the key players are definitely going to be here and meet up with him today. Lots of keys to this game. I mean, Cook scorched earth yesterday, in my opinion, and I agree with the Cook-Hines combination. Something is absolutely brewing there, and it's all good. It is. There's just so many there's so many things that have changed from the beginning of the season to now, and the adversity that had happened has made this team extremely settled. Clock management, perfect example. Again, another game in the beginning of the season, we did not manage the clock as we should. We did not manage our timeouts. Now you get it. This is where it's imperative. On the field, more than 3/4 of the game and just chipping away, chipping away, consistently good. Not putting all that pressure on Josh to make the game, but he makes the plays when they're necessary, and now 100% save your miles. I'll cover your miles. Don't even bother going to Dallas. Just sign here. Period. I just sign here. And I think he will.
I will say, as good as that game was last night, Greg brought it up on the post-game show, and if there's still probably a little bit of beef. Joe brought up a little bit, sort of the way I think they handled the end of the first half.
Okay,
I think you could have probably got some points there that you left on the board, right?
Yep. I agree.
I think that's like a situation where you have something that's working. It's almost like a spoil of riches. You have this running game that's absolutely gashing the Patriots D-line and linebackers. You know it's working, but because it's working, you think you could take another approach to have a 2-facet way to beat them, and then it doesn't work. And then it's almost like you're abandoning what was working for you. It's like you're getting a little too greedy. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, you are right, Aaron. That is true.
Wasn't
Aaron,
as bad as the Lions.
To your point, Aaron, I've noticed with Dorsey a number of times, he'll take like a kill shot that's kind of out of character from what the play calling has been during the game. And right at the end of the half, it felt like they were going for the old Mike Tyson's punch out, like the big hook, and when you could have probably just killed that gone on a 4-minute drive, even gone down, kicked the field goal and killed the clock before the half. On the OBJ stuff, from my read of things and in my experience, my guess would be that the staff, the guys like me, will probably get a day or two off. And I bet the players, they're going to have a big party at Josh's house. And I think as a sign of respect for Vaughn, and, I think they'll all gather there with OBJ. And I think, frankly, that'll mean a lot to OBJ. If the guys don't leave town, I think that's a huge signal to him as to how kind of all in the team is on, him coming here. So I think the timing of his visit here actually helps the Bills and is probably, the best signal it could be to him how serious they are if the players stick around during a mini bye weekend.
I love that you brought that
100%,
up because
yeah.
I said that on the show last night that I think, I agree with Greg Tompsett said Josh Allen's really that's the ultimate selling point for coming to the Bills, right? Like that's the ultimate thing you want to play with Josh Allen. But I think also when Von Miller has talked about it on his streams, on his Voncast, that the reason he felt confident is once OBJ gets here and sees what's inside the building and see what it is that they're doing in building, that's going to be what turns it. And I think what he means by that is exactly what Josh is saying is this team is all in. You saw in the post-game locker room speech, Josh Allen being like, guys, enjoy your time off, but keep in mind the goal, right? Like we're all in this together. This is the goal. I think he's going to come here and realize that this team is tight. Kirkpatrick and they were talking about that on the broadcast last night, like how tight of a team this was. They meet all these other teams, and how focused they are on the mission. I think OBJ's been in the league long enough. He's been on plenty of teams that had dysfunction, where that sort of matters differently as you're a vet.
I agree.
So picture him coming in, being in New York City and being in LA, and he's probably going to spend tonight or tomorrow night in a house in Eden with like 15 NFL guys, Diggs and Miller. So just picture that, and I have a feeling that he's not going to leave without signing here because I think it's going to be such a different experience for him. And instead of being no, definitely not. It's not a money issue, and I think it's such a unique experience, and I think he's going to be sold on the idea of, oh my God, these guys are all sitting around like a slumber party on a Friday night just wanting to win the Super Bowl. Like, just picture that culture shock. He's coming in here tonight.
This is not going to happen. There's no way on the earth that this happens. Like, let's take a step here. OBJ has been nothing but himself his entire career. There's no way he's going to take a back seat.
What are you talking about? Last year he took a back seat to Cooper Kupp.
He had to. He absolutely had to.
He will have to.
He had to.
He will have to again. You think he's gonna go to Dallas and take over for CeeDee Lamb?
I don't think he's gonna play in Buffalo. I just don't. It's not.
That's fair, but I don't think the reason is. I think he gets a bad knock. I think wide receivers get a bad knock.
I agree with that.
I don't think he's a bad dude. I don't think he's a me dude. Von Miller's talked about it. He's the best.
An airplane like 2 days ago.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, that just shows you his judgment is probably not all there, right?
No.
Have you been kicked off?
Have
you been kicked off a plane before?
I've been kicked out of a lot of places, actually.
Out of a plane. Out of a plane.
I mean, this is a weird argument, though. Like, all NFL executives that were asked about it said it doesn't change their opinion on him whatsoever. I don't think the story.
I don't know. No, I just don't think that. Said differently, I just don't think OBJ at the end of the day really fits the ilk of a McDermott Bean team. And I think that
people said that about.
That's what they said about
Stefan Diggs.
Yep, that's what they said about Diggs.
I don't know. Like, I do think that also this team can absorb this. You have built this culture for 5 years. You've built this locker room with leadership councils and all those 100%. Things. I think even if he is all the things you're saying, which I don't believe.
I'm not saying he's a bad
if
dude.
He is.
I'm just saying he's not a cultural fit for Buffalo, right? And
the Bills wouldn't entertain it at all. They would not entertain it. I'm sorry, they wouldn't
even
waste their time.
They're just doing it to try to fake out the competition and think that, hey, we want to keep the Bills.
No.
We want to keep OBJ out of the competitors' hands.
No,
they don't do that sort of thing.
They don't play those games. Brandon does not play those games.
Yeah, people always say that they're bringing in people during the pre-draft process to try to blow smoke, but they don't do that sort of thing.
But also another thing too is like, why would they need to stray away from the competition? Their competition's in the NFC.
Well, come playoff time,
these guys are not.
You don't want.
These guys are not giving up
OBJ
their
on the Chiefs, right? That you do not want.
These guys are not going to give up their mini bye weekend if this is all a charade or a smokescreen. Like, the players are not going to do it. They're not going to, Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott are not going to be able to convince Von Miller to put his reputation on the line for, sometimes smokescreen or charade. And frankly, OBJ, I don't think is going to waste, his friends' time. No. And, the superstars in this league, if he had no interest in coming here, he's not going to go hang out at Josh's house in Eden tonight. He's just not going to do it.
I agree.
Here's my I want to get to Whittle.
He wants a contract on a winning team, right? It's going to be 10 hours of his life, right? That's not a big commitment here, guys. This is a 10-hour guy's life.
That's not how these guys don't operate that way.
You also don't have to go on the visit. You don't have to take the.
The point I think that stands out the most to me is
call me crazy, call me a jerk, whatever. I just don't see it.
Nobody's calling you anything.
Yeah,
no, you're good.
Difference of opinion. It's fine.
The only thing, I don't know OBJ personally. We can only go by with the things that we hear and see. Von Miller, I would implore you to go look. I don't know if I can find it and post it later. It was on his Voncast. The way he was talking about, he's been on a number of teams. He's played with a number of teammates, and this is his best friend in the world, OBJ. And he's talked about, he is the best, absolute best teammate he's ever had. And what he brought to the Rams locker room last year was part of their success. That's what he talks about. And you hear other NFL players talk about OBJ that way.
Like, what I love most about this as a whole, even though I don't think he went, is that it shows the push and the urgency to want to win a championship, and it shows me how bad Vaughn wants to win as well, and I love that. I mean, that part I absolutely.
I don't think Vaughn's bullshitting though that he's a good teammate. I don't think he's sitting there lying about that stuff.
Oh, I wouldn't. I wouldn't know either.
Vaughn gets nothing out of it about exaggerating his talent exaggerating.
Vaughn thinks he makes him a better team, and I have to agree with that. So what Vaughn is thinking, I want to win another championship, right?
Absolutely.
I don't think he would destroy the locker room, but I do. Whittle has been waiting patiently with his hand up, and I got to go get my kid in like 10 minutes. So I do want to get him in here and get his point as well here. Well, but Jeremy, I don't want you to think nobody's making fun of you, nobody's calling you names, anything like that, man.
See it. No.
Yeah. Whittle.
Yo, what's up, Eric?
Thank you for waiting, my man. Sorry about that.
Nah, no problem. So some of y'all know I live in New Jersey. I live in northern New Jersey. I live in Newark. This is New York Jets, New York Giants territory. My son's favorite player is Odell Beckham Jr. When Odell Beckham Jr. was in New York with the Giants, not a single teammate complained about him as a person or anything else. Once he left and Dave Gettleman and his whole regime left, everybody in the building talked about how it was a mistake to let that guy out the door. Cleveland fans, Cleveland teammates, nobody said anything bad about him. They talked worse about the quarterback that was homegrown than they did about the wide receiver that they got in a trade. Same thing in LA. Nobody spoke. They just emptied the man's locker like last week.
Yeah. Yeah, they wanted to bring him back.
Right. So, yes, LA is beautiful and the weather's always great, and Buffalo gets snowstorms bigger than Isaiah McKenzie. We understand that. But OBJ is now a father. He's a family man. One selling point that Buffalo has over all these other cities that he's going to is that Buffalo is a city of neighbors. The way that the city rallied around a team to get them to a football game that they did not have to do. You had neighbors plowing out the driveways and things of players, helping them get to the airport to play a football game. And these neighbors are not getting paid. They're not getting paid. Nope. Dallas is not doing that. The city of Dallas and the people in Dallas are not doing that. The people in New York are definitely not doing that. These are the selling points that Buffalo has over these other targeted areas. Also, what I feel from what my interpretation of all this hoopla that OBJ is going through is that he wants an opportunity to be recruited, to be courted, to feel like he matters. And what other place would he matter more? Like we see what Gabriel Davis is doing. Gabriel Davis is a nice player. He's not a number 2 right now. And this offense needs another target for Stephon Diggs. And OBJ can be that. He doesn't have to be the guy, but he wants to be a guy. And he can come to Buffalo and be a guy in this offense that's desperately needed. And when we do win a Super Bowl with OBJ on this roster, we're not saying, oh, well, OBJ won that ring, but I mean, he didn't really do nothing, which is kind of what they can say about OBJ in LA. Is like, well, we had him and then he got hurt, but, he did provide a spark, but Von Miller made the plays at the end. No, OBJ comes in and this offense is as potent as it's ever been. And I think that's what he wants. So I think him coming here and seeing the camaraderie around the team, the team, the building and the facilities, the way we take care of our injured guys, the way our injured guys come back faster and stay and well, this year, I mean, we're catching the injury bug from the last 3 seasons when we were healthy. But I just think all those different things appeal to. This is not a 24-year-old OBJ. Right. This is a 30-year-old father. You know what I'm saying? That's on the down end of his career, on the down slope of his career. He wants to go somewhere where he can be settled and he can raise his family, have an opportunity to win championships, and have fun doing it.
To be fair, though, I think this is only this would be a 2.5 month.
Yeah, but they said he wants a multi-year deal, and I think Buffalo can offer him that. I think
they
Buffalo
might be able to, yeah.
A 2-year deal with a team option for the third, and whatever.
It's almost the same feeling as how it was for Diggs. He what Diggs was looking for was here. It wasn't. It wasn't what it wasn't fulfilling in Minnesota for him.
Yeah, I do think Dallas is a legitimate. I don't want to downplay. They have a good franchise. They have good playmakers. Dak is a really good quarterback. There's a draw. Vaughn talked about wanting to play for Dallas himself. So I don't want to sleep on that. There's also draws elsewhere.
With all due respect, Aaron, Jerry Jones is pictured in that. One of the kids in that picture from when they integrated the school. So I mean that has to matter. That has to hold some sort of weight.
I will also say the way the Dallas Cowboys handled Dak Prescott's contract went a long way with NFL players, and what some of those things matter differently. Where he got hurt, they could have walked away from Dak Prescott or given him a worse deal, but they gave him the money that they should have, and I think that does also carry a lot of weight around the NFL.
Also, I would say this: I know you talked about New York. I don't think we should be sleeping on the Giants either, just for the familiarity factor. I mean,
Vaughn said they're out.
Oh, they're out.
Right, that's what Vaughn said. I mean, he also said he was going to be back for the Jets
Giants
game.
Are out,
I did not know that. My bad.
I do think he is still taking a visit, or already did his visit.
I think he did it.
Yeah.
He visited the Dolphins, too, didn't he? No one ever talks about that.
Did he?
I thought he did.
He did. He's already been with the Dolphins.
That was where he was coming from when he got kicked off the flight.
Right.
I thought he... I don't know. I haven't seen it. I thought the only places he was visiting were New York, Buffalo, Dallas, and then he was talking with Baltimore and Kansas City. That's what I saw.
I've heard we're down to 2, us and Dallas at this point.
That is what Vaughn said on his Twitch. Again, with a grain of salt. I do. Whittle, you brought up a really great point, in my opinion, in terms of talking about the context that he's never been the free agent before. And Vaughn, this is another thing Vaughn's talked about. We forget as fans because we're so emotional we want him to come to our team because we think our team's the best option and all that. And I know people in my mentions on Twitter are frustrated with how long this OBJ watch has gone on, and they're saying that is something that makes him more of a diva. But Vaughn talks about it like, if you have the opportunity to be a free agent, not everyone gets these opportunities. You should take it. You should hear what everyone has to say. You should go look for yourself and take your time. The NFL doesn't care. NFL teams don't care about OBJ. OBJ needs to do what is best for him. Players are taking that mentality more and more, and I'm totally okay with it. It pisses a lot of people off, but that's something I don't care about at all. Take your time, make the right decision.
So there's a couple people requesting to get in. Do you want to maybe
No,
get them in real quick?
I cannot do it. I got literally 4 minutes, unless somebody's got like a real quick point they want to make. But I got 4 minutes. I got to bounce.
Yeah, we can put them on the clock, or
Sure.
we can just. All right, Coach K, I'm muting everybody. I'm muting everybody else. Nate, you want to get in real quick before we got to sign off here?
I was just going to say, it seems like a lot of these players that have been somewhat in their times or their careers looked at as tumultuous players, a lot of them have the biggest heart. And somebody earlier said something about Stephon. You know, everybody was like, don't bring him in, don't bring him in. He's a diva. But I feel like Buffalo's where players go to grow. And I also look at all the guys that came back and were like, this is home. This is the place. This is where we want to be. Even John Brown just said it. He's like, it just felt like home. I look at Shaq Lawson and what Leslie Frazier said just yesterday or 2 days ago. He's like, he plays every down like it's his last. And you talk to Shaq and you talk to Jordan Poyer, both of them said, we made the wrong decision taking the money, and we're so glad to be back. And I think that right there is such a staple of what could bring somebody like OBJ to grow, to find a home, to find a place where he can just play ball, do what he loves. And I can't remember who it was, Whittle, like he said, he's like, you know, the guy's, he's matured a lot. And I even look at Stephon Diggs' press conferences, and the way he talks and speaks nowadays is completely different than what he used to. I just think it's a place to grow, mature, place to call home. And I think for sure that, you know, I'm not for or against it. I only want him to be here if he wants to be here and he finds that place his home, because I think that's when your heart's in it. I think that's when you play your best.
People make fun of the coach speak and everything and culture and process and come to Buffalo, be the best version of yourself. But we hear it repeatedly over and over again from players who have left and come back, or players who have played at other places and come here for the first time, that it rings true, right?
Yeah, that's a great point, Nate. Thanks so much, Coach K. Do you want to
pop
get in like for real quick, like a minute, and then Aaron's got to run.
Yeah, definitely, man. First off, go Bills! Great victory last night. Love the run game. Man, at the end of the day, all the points that have been made about the city of Buffalo and the surrounding areas and everything, all that, like Coach McDermott says, come Buffalo, be the best representative of yourself. All that is the cake, and the cherry on top of the sundae is you're catching balls from 17. If I think that right there has got to weigh the most. No disrespect to Dak, no disrespect to Daniel Jones, but I mean, if it's down to us three teams, you got to go with 17, man. He's the best quarterback out of those three. Definitely, he's top quarterback in the league, top 2 quarterback in the league. At the end of the day, you want to be the best version of yourself on and off the field. And when you're playing wide receiver, you can't have a shit quarterback to do that. So I just think at the end of the day, if it's not about the money, then there's no other team in the NFL that makes sense for OBJ. He's got family and friends on this team, and come play with the top quarterback in the league, in a lot of people's opinion.
I don't disagree. Yeah. I think to the point we were talking earlier, when you see the film and you see Josh doing everything he can every play to win, I think that speaks volumes to players around the league. I bet there's a bunch of dudes sitting in film rooms watching what the Bills are doing, talking in the back of their mind thinking, man, like I would love to go play with a guy like that.
Yeah, for sure. But thanks a lot for the comment, Coach K. That was a good point.
It.
Thanks to everybody else for joining in today.
Everyone that popped in for chatting. It was a good chat.
Yeah, good football Friday. It's not often we get to do these after a Bills win. After it. I mean,
normally we're getting ready for the game, hanging out. So this was nice. This was fun. Appreciate everyone. Make sure everybody hits over to the Cover One YouTube channel at noon. If the Walls Could Talk in Buffalo is going to have talking about free agent visits. Josh was on earlier telling us about that. So make sure you're hitting over there. And when you get over there, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. If you aren't already subscribed to the Cover One YouTube channel, you're missing out. If you're a Bills fan, guys, you got to be following everybody at Cover One. Even if you don't like me, follow the other people.
And tell your friends about it too. You know, if I get a chance, I'll tweet out this episode later. I'll tag you guys that talked. Retweet it for us. Let your friends know. We're trying to keep the channel growing, and we appreciate any help you guys can provide to that end.
For sure, that's a great point. But I got to go run and get my little guy from school here, guys. So appreciate it. Make sure that you're checking in on these spaces often. We're trying to do them a couple times a week, Chris, right?
Yeah, you know, we'll. I mean, it's been great. We've been getting a good turnout. People jumping in and with the comments, and it's fun. So yeah, I mean, we'll keep it going.
Cool. Thanks, guys, and go Bills.